the election petition that you filed was thrown out. I will tell you about it. And that is what was important about the case. Mr. Speaker, the opportunity is now mine to offer a few remarks on the 2023 budget. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to begin by offering my warm congratulations to my venerable brother, the distinguished Minister of Finance, and his industrious staff for preparing and presenting the third installment of our government's fiscal plan and developmental agenda for this financial year in the form of Budget 2023. Mr. Speaker, much to the incomprehension of those on the other side, the honorable members, Budget 2023 was not crafted in abstract. In the year 2020, the People's Progressive Party Civic went to the electorate with a 5-year development plan. We explained that plan to the electorate, and we asked the electorate that if they support that plan, then elect us to government and we will implement that plan. And elect us they did, Mr. Speaker, and we are implementing the third installment of that plan. Mr. Speaker, the manifesto that we went to the people with, I have it in my hand. And if I am only to look at the front page of that manifesto, it contains certain promises which we went to the electorate with. And I will, Mr. Speaker, just go through briefly as a report card in relation to those promises. The first one, removal of taxes on cell phone and data. We delivered that in 2021. 20,000 online scholarships. This is a 5-year promise. We delivered over half in 2.5 years. And we will pass the 20,000 mark this year. Mr. Speaker, reversal of 200 taxes and fees. Delivered, done. 40,000 per month in old age pension in our 3rd year. We are at $42,000. We are going to surpass this in the 5-year period. Reversal of VAT on electricity, water, food, and medical supplies, delivered. Restoration of electricity and water subsidies to pension, delivered. 50,000 because we care cash grant, we are at 40,000 in the 3rd year. Creation of 50,000 new jobs. We have put the sugar workers back. We have put the 2,000 CSOs back. We have put the 30,000 persons that you dismissed. And we have created thousands of jobs in the oil and gas sector and all the other sectors in the country. A plan to reduce crime, Mr. Speaker. I have here what the crime chief said, November the 17th, 2022. Crime chief says serious crime has dropped by 19% last year. And I have what the commissioner of police said in December the 17th, 2022, cops record 30% decrease in serious crimes in Georgetown. Mr. Speaker, free education from nursery to university, it will be delivered in the 5-year period. 50,000 low-income house lots, we have already delivered 20,500, and we have 11 more thousand to deliver this year. So, Mr. Speaker, we don't operate in government in abstract. We have a plan as responsible leaders. This is what we agree with the electorate, and we are delivering in accordance with this manifesto. Mr. Speaker, what is worrying is the approach displayed by the honorable members on that side. Every speaker on our government presented cogent and compelling case. It means that you see nothing good in the budget. And that, Mr. Speaker, is worrying. But the irreconcilable difference.
Mr. Speaker, I stand on point of order.
Honorable Deputy.
Yes, I apologize to the Deputy Speaker. And for the remainder of my presentation, I exclude you, sir. Sir, the members on the other side have displayed the difference in philosophy. And it characterized their conduct in government. It is characterizing their conduct in their own political party, as I will demonstrate. And it is characterizing their conduct here. Mr. Speaker, we have crafted this budget in a sustainable way. Great references have been made to the oil wealth, and they would like for us to spend it all today. But that is not our philosophy. Our philosophy is to spend to make today better, but to make tomorrow greater. And that is the philosophy that guides this budget. Mr. Speaker, those on the other side prefers instant gratification. Our budget team, it says it reflects our philosophy. Improving lives today, building prosperity for tomorrow. The other side would prefer the budget team to read, spend all today, and to hell with tomorrow. That is the philosophy. And Mr. Speaker, unwittingly, it came out yesterday afternoon in the presentation of the honorable member from region number 8, Mr. Richard Sinclair. Honorable member, what he did yesterday was a very revealing thing. He used the total population and divided it by the value of the budget, and he boldly declared that every citizen in Guyana should get over $1 million. Forget the developmental plan, just share out the whole budget. That is the philosophy, Mr. Speaker. That is the philosophy. Mr. Speaker, no, don't build anything. Let us spend, and let us spend. Mr. Speaker, it is the same. The Vice President said last week, that the big picture of Budget 2023 is lost on the opposition. Well, the Vice President was wrong. Every picture is lost on the opposition. They're coming up blank, 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 like the 30 blank checks. And they will tell us, Mr. Speaker, that that's PNC business. But let me tell you what is important. As long as you pose and present yourself, unfortunately, as the alternative government, PNC business is the public business. And that type of conduct, signing of 30 blank checks, characterized and typified your performance in government.
Has no place in government.
And has no place in good governance and accountability.
No place.
I had, like most of you, I had the benefit of listening to that recorded telephone conversation. And I heard the treasurer, the poor fellow was complaining. He said, my God, I've never signed my name so much. I forget how to sign my name. And one honorable member from the front bench, I heard his voice distinctly. All he could say is, wow, 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 wow. I thought I was listening to a siren. After a time, I thought I was listening to a siren.
And what was Mahim?
It was one wow per check, 30 wows. come to lecture us here on good governance, and that is what you're doing in your own party?
What did Mahipal say?
Mahipal said we have to take it to the leadership. Mahipal was smart enough to record the conversation.
Honorable AG, Mahipal is somebody outside of the house? Oh, okay.
Most honorable member. In fact, I have to give him credit. He was very honorable in that conversation. Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead.
So when they come here to talk about accountability, the people of Guyana must be reminded. Because as I said, it typified their conduct in government. That is why they saw nothing wrong in giving a contract to rent a building in Almoystong, a house, for $12 million to a friend, throwing the procurement process aside. Mr. Speaker, the gentleman bought the house for $20 million and he received 3 months rent in advance, $36 million, before the tenancy commenced. That is how they dealt with public monies. It is a philosophy, Mr. Speaker. It is a philosophy. And let us take incompetence.
Meanwhile, he was a tenant.
They have come here, yes, tenant of the last speaker. You heard all the high-sounding notes from the last speaker, but we didn't hear about the tenancy. But Mr. Speaker, they came here and they lectured us about incompetence. I can't speak to every minister. I can't speak to every minister between 2015 to 2020. But let us deal with the Attorney General that they imposed upon us. Let us deal with him. That was a gentleman whose incompetence was unparalleled in any part of planet Earth. Mr. Speaker, imagine he was supposed to be the legal advisor to the government, and within the first year, the government had to end up hiring 6 legal advisors for him. And you are coming here to tell us about incompetence? Mr. Speaker, again, it reflects a mindset. You had a president who felt that he was above the law, and his Attorney General said that to the court. And I'm going to give you examples. When President Granger revoked the Red House lease unlawfully, his Attorney General went to the court and says the president is above the law.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable
I rise on
Holder.
Standing Order 41, content of speech. Forty-one, 41.7, the President's name shall not be used to influence the Assembly. I submit to you that the Honourable Member is using
Hold 1 minute, 1 second, AG.
That is the philosophy I'm talking about. They don't.
Thank you. Honorable Member Mr. Holder, I think that standing order refers to the sitting president.
Obviously, Mr. Speaker.
So I cannot uphold the point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I can recall in your previous rulings that if he's not here to defend himself, then the Honourable Member should not be mentioning his name.
Yeah. But we're talking about the policies.
I'm talking about track record in government, which I must be able to say. I must be able to talk about that in the budget debate.
And Honorable AG, you must allow me to rule
Yes, of
and
course,
then
sir.
give you the floor. Okay, you may continue now, Honorable.
Thank you very
AG.
much, sir. Sir, I was speaking about a philosophy that was reflected in policy and behavior on that side. And the president at the time felt that he was above the law. So he unlawfully rescinded a 50-year-old lease for the Red House. And his Attorney General went to the court and said that the president is above the law, that he can't be sued. He's not answerable to any court. The court overruled him. He did not learn The president then rescinded 50 rice farmers' leases at MMA. He went to the court again and he argued that the president is above the law. The court overruled him. He did not learn. The president unlawfully appointed James Patterson to head GCOM. And he went to the court again and he said that the president is above the law, and the court overruled him. And Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, he did not learn still. Only this week, he went to the CCJ and he told them that he's above the law, and they chased him out. Look at this. No one is up.
Yeah, but Honorable AG, I don't think the CCJ chased anybody out. I think you could use better language.
The CCJ summarily disposed of him by reaffirming that no one is above the law. The CCJ tell Basil Williams before dismissing his application. The people must know the level of incompetence that this nation had to endure. And then you on that side coming here to lecture us about competence in government. Mr. Speaker, and rightfully so, I must give you credit. You saw the disaster that he was and you replaced him. But you replaced him with Honorable Member Ford. And your fortunes have not fared better. Mr. Speaker, I can't go through case by case, but let us take the two most important cases. That is, their two elections petition. Mr. Speaker, when they filed the petition, Mr. Ford boldly held a press conference in front of the High Court. And he told the nation that by these two petitions, the PPP will be removed from office in 6 months. Well, Mr. Speaker, in 6 months, both of his petitions were dismissed, and the PPP is here 2.5 years later, stronger and better than ever. Mr. Speaker, they are telling us about incompetence. Mr. Speaker, the honorable members on that side have once again resumed that discredited narrative of accusing this government of extrajudicial killing. The honorable member Coretta MacDonald stood there at that podium and alleged that the families of the Henry boys, of Harish Singh, of Quindon Bacchus, and Orrin Boston are still waiting for justice. And you hear the echo, yes. It is the philosophy, Mr. Speaker. What the honorable member has omitted to tell the House is that 2 persons have been charged and committed for murder for the Henry boys. A preliminary inquiry was held and they were committed to the High Court. 4 persons were charged for the death of Harish Singh, and they did a PI and they have been committed to stand trial. 3 officers have already been charged after an independent investigation was done by the Police Complaints Authority in relation to the death of Quinton Bacchus, and the cases are going on in the court. A SWAT constable was charged with manslaughter in relation to Orrin Boston. And Mr. Speaker, they would come here and they would create that subtle racial message that the PPP government is unleashing a police force against them. That is the subtle message of racism. And Mr. Speaker, we know what they caused as a result of some of these killings. The violence on the roadways of West Coast Maurice, the robbery, the vandalism, the arson, the destruction of properties. And on the east coast of Demerara, the robbery of hundreds and the destruction of properties going into the millions is as a result of some of these deaths. Mr. Speaker, I consulted with the police force and I got the statistics, and I will share it with the Parliament, that between 2015 to 2020, before August, 41 persons died in police custody or at the hands of the police. Almost 8 per year while you were in government. We never alleged extrajudicial killing. We never put people on the road. We never encouraged people to beat, burn, and rob. That's the difference in political leadership.
That's the difference. That's the difference.
Mr. Speaker, I can speak personally to 2 of these victims. Lal Bachchan, he died at Sadi Lockup on June the 31st, 2019. And Kali Charan Sewak, he died at Sparandam Lockup on January 28, 2019. Instead of alleging extrajudicial killing, instead of playing politics with the death and tragedies of these people, we instituted legal proceedings on behalf of their family, and we won millions of dollars of compensation against them. For them, that is the difference in leadership, Mr. Speaker. That is the difference in leadership. Mr. Speaker, I can continue, but let me move quickly to the legal sector. Mr. Speaker, this year is going to be a watershed year for many projects in the judicial and legal sector. And I'll begin with the establishment of a law school on these shores, a regional legal educational institution. Mr. Speaker, and it has some history. And thanks, Minister of Finance. Let me resuscitate and remind the honorable members. Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, where are we going to tell you who vision it was? One day in 2017, we heard big press statement that the Council of Legal Education granted permission for the establishment of a law school. Big spread in the newspapers. And then, Mr. Speaker, an agreement was signed by an unknown university to partner the government of Guyana. Look, the Attorney General well attired in his suit. You can't stop them for pomp and pageantry. They had a signing, and it was obviously front page in the newspapers. Signed an agreement, they got permission. Mr. Speaker, it didn't stop there. It did not stop there. 15 acres of land was identified at the University of Guyana. A sod was turned.
Oh my.
Pomp and ceremony.
Pomp and ceremony. Pageantry.
They did an image, an artist image of the law school. Look at here.
Where is it?
I have it here. Artist image.
Pomp and pageantry.
They give it a name. The JOF.
All their
The JOF Haynes Law School. They give it a name. And then lo and behold, a public statement was issued by the Council of Legal Education that they never gave permission for the establishment of a law school in Guyana.
no.
Mr. Speaker, we could understand the Attorney General claiming that he's losing cases, he's losing case files, he's losing law books. Blame me for it. But how do you lose a whole law school? How do you lose a whole law school? And they are telling us about incompetence. Mr. Speaker, fortunately last year, September, permission was granted by the Council of Legal Education, the proper authority, for us to begin work on the establishment of a law school here. And Mr. Speaker, the government has established a team, and that team will be working with the judiciary, with the University of Guyana, with the Guyana Bar Association, towards the attainment of this objective. So, Mr. Speaker, we are doing things the proper way. Not the way that they used to do it. Mr. Speaker, this year also, the important commission to reform our Constitution will be established. Last year, we passed the Constitutional Reform Commission Act. And this year, we'll see the establishment of the constitutional reform, and we hope that the opposition will come on board and cooperate with this process, because after all, they promised, as we did, that we will deliver to the people constitutional reform. They have failed abysmally before, and we hope that they will not fail the people again. Mr. Speaker, this year also, well, last year, we inducted a batch of special prosecutors comprising of LLB students whom we specially trained at the University of Guyana in a very innovative initiative where we had the Chief Justice lecturing, the Director of Public Prosecutions lecturing, and visiting legal luminaries from across the Caribbean lecturing in a specially comprised program to equip these Bachelor of Laws holders with the necessary skill set to put them alongside the police prosecutors in the magistrates court. Mr. Speaker, we graduated from that program 35 special prosecutors who are currently in the magistrates court in our country in regions 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. Mr. Speaker, another batch of 35 will begin training within a month's time, and once they graduate, they will also be unleashed in the courts of our country, giving priority to the courts that we have not yet covered. Mr. Speaker, last year we implemented the Restorative Justice Act, and this year we are going to establish a Restorative Justice Center and a secretariat that will bring the act into fruition. Mr. Speaker, it will be recalled that in this legislation, the focus is against custodial sentence, and the focus is on the exploration of other forms of punishment, but in particular, it brings the victim and the perpetrator of the crime together and try to repair and restore the relationship and have them work out their own form of punishment, for want of a better word. And significantly, it goes into the society itself, trying to find the root cause of the criminal conduct and working to address it. It's a very important social reform in our country that will take root in the criminal justice system during the course of 2023. And of course, it is directed to nonviolent offenses only. Mr. Speaker, this year we are going to complete a massive building at Saudi Essequibo Coast that will provide accommodation for officers of the Director of Public Prosecutions Office, an office as well as living quarters, so they are comfortably placed when they are executing their task on the Essequibo Coast. This year also, 2 edifices will be constructed, one at Luzicnan on the east coast of Demerara and one at Virginujan East Bank, Essequibo, which will accommodate a Hope and Justice Center, or 2 Hope and Justice Centers. These institutions, Mr. Speaker, will provide legal, medical, and probationary services to the victims of domestic violence, sexual violence, child abuse, etc. Accommodation will be provided for the victims so as to remove them from the source of the violence if necessary. Mr. Speaker, under this program, we will draft a bill to abolish preliminary inquiries in criminal proceedings in Guyana. Every day or so often we read in the newspapers the complaint about delay in the criminal justice system and the length of time that accused persons are languishing in prison. Well, part of that reason is because currently the law requires a preliminary inquiry to be done to establish a prima facie case before going to a judge and jury. Right across the Caribbean and even beyond in the Commonwealth, that one tier or first tier of the criminal process or the criminal trial process has been abolished. And you now review the statements and a magistrate can determine whether to commit or not. We are moving in that direction, removing that tier out of the criminal trial process and accelerating the trial. That will result in the elimination of tremendous backlog, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the heat is on. Mr. Speaker, this year also, we will have a review of the Plea Bargaining Agreement Act. Some years ago, we introduced in a statutory form plea bargaining. Plea bargaining simply means the meeting of the prosecutor and the accused persons once certain safeguards are in place, and for them to negotiate and work out a settlement or a reduction of sentence that is acceptable to the fundamental principles of justice. So that people don't go there and get excessive sentences, or they don't detain the court process unduly, neither should they get a slap on the wrist for offenses that might offend the moral values of our society. Unfortunately, this mechanism has not worked in the manner that we contemplated. And with the help of the Director of Public Prosecutions, I have commissioned a review of this bill to inquire into why it has not worked, and let us address those concerns so that we can get it to work. And it will also bring greater expediency to the administration of criminal justice. Mr. Speaker, we will also be working with Guyana Prison Service in retrofitting the mental health unit at Lusignan prisons and training prison officers and related personnel in mental health. We will also upgrade computer labs in 4 prison centers across Guyana in providing computer hardware and accessories for prison centers at New Amsterdam, Lusignan, Timehri, and Mazaruni. Mr. Speaker, we will also support the Drug Treatment Court of Guyana by the procurement of computer hardware, accessories, and the provision of 1 5-seater 4x4 vehicle. Mr. Speaker, in the area of the Deeds and Commercial Registry Authority, with our ever-expanding commercial sector, obviously, this is an important state department that must be targeted for expansion. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Minister, as you noted, the heat is on. You'll need an extension.
Mr. Speaker, may I ask that the honorable member be granted an extension to conclude his presentation?
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. Honorable Minister, you have 5 minutes, and I could bear the heat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we started the construction of a building at Sadi on the Essequibo coast, a 3-story building at a cost of $480 million that will house the Deeds and Commercial Registry Authority operations there. And in this budget, there's an $800 million allocation for the construction of a new building across the road from the New Amsterdam High Court that will house the operation of this important entity. Mr. Speaker, let me go straight to the judiciary, because the judicial sector has some very important projects. Mr. Speaker, continuing from last year in the Northwest Magisterial District, we will be completing the Magistrate Court and Living Quarter at Port Kaituma, Region 1. Also, we will be completing the Magistrates Court and Living Quarter at Mabaruma, Region 1. We will be completing the Magistrate Court and Living Quarters at Vigilance on the east coast of Demerara. The expansion to the Court of Appeal building will be completed. Essequibo Magisterial District will see the completion of the Bartica Magistrate Court Phase 2. Essequibo Magisterial District will see the completion of Madhya Magistrate Court Phase 2. East Coast Demerara Magisterial District will see Coban John Magistrates Court being completed, and Maikoni Magistrates Court as well. Mr. Speaker, work will be done also in extending the living quarters at Lethem Magistrates Court. Mr. Speaker, extension will be done also at the Diamond Grove Magistrates Court to erect a storage bond at that location. The West Demerara Magisterial Court at Wales will be retrofitted, and a library and research center is going to be constructed. Mr. Speaker, elevators are going to be installed at the High Court in Berbice, Demerara, and Essequibo. Mr. Speaker, for 2023, new courts will be constructed with living quarters at Timehri. Mr. Speaker, a new court and living quarters will be constructed at Friendship on the east bank of Demerara, and that is along the intended new highway. In Essequibo Magisterial District, we will construct a new magistrate court and living quarters along with an access bridge at Anna Regina. Many members may know that the court is currently in a police station. For the first time, it will get its own home. Madhya Magistrate Court Phase 3 will be completed. At Parfait Harmony, we are building a magistrate court and living quarters. Mr. Speaker, Bartika Magistrates Court will be completed as well, and the construction of a martial bond and document center at the Georgetown Magistrates Court. Mr. Speaker, I move quickly to our legislative agenda. As usual, we have a very aggressive legislative agenda for the year 2023. And if I can run through them quickly. The Summary Jurisdiction Offences Amendment Bill, the Companies Amendment Bill, the Landlord and Tenant Amendment Bill, the Evidence Amendment Bill, the Summary Jurisdiction Procedure Amendment Bill, the Court of Appeal Amendment Bill, the Extramural Work Amendment Bill, the Limitation Amendment Bill, the Criminal Law Procedure Amendment Bill, the Planning and Development Single Window System Bill, which is already in the Parliament, the Radiation Safety and Security Bill already here, Combating of Trafficking in Person Bill, Border Patrol Bill, Firearms Control Bill, Apostille Bill, Leave with Pay Amendment Bill, Electronic Communication and Transaction Bill, Anti-Dumping Bill, Engineers Bill, Securities Bill, Recording of Court Proceeding Bill, Foreign Judgment Reciprocal Enforcement Bill, Business Name Registration Bill, Gambling Prevention Amendment Bill, Rice Farmer Security of Tenure Amendment Bill, Data Protection Bill, Health Information System Bill, Real Estate Bill, Food and Drug Bill, Gaming Bill, Criminal Law Procedure Plea Bargaining and Plea Arrangement Bill, Paper Committal Bill, Petroleum Production Bill, Electronic Case Management System Bill, National Intelligence and Security Bill, Surveillance Devices Bill, Arbitration Bill, Public Health Bill, Solid Waste Management Bill, Family Violence Bill, Subsidies and Countervailing Measures Bill, Safeguard Measures Bill, Social Workers Licensing Bill, Corporate Tax Amendment Bill, Caribbean Community Amendment Bill, Sexual Offences Bill, and Mr. Speaker, there are a series of legislation that we are required to bring in conformity with our international obligations. Also, before I close, Mr. Speaker, this year, myself and my brother, the distinguished Minister of Finance, will lead Guyana's efforts in preparing Guyana's financial structure for mutual assessment at the level of the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. That will require us to pass a whole set of new bills, regulations, and also bring together all the relevant players and prepare them for that assessment. Before the Cabinet of Guyana is our national plan for the year 2023 to prepare us for that very rigorous and important exercise. So, Mr. Speaker, I spent this time in my budget to outline the level of work that we have to do in Guyana in establishing that important legal framework that will cradle the developmental agenda of our country. And Mr. Speaker, I again appeal to the other side. I heard the empty words of the Honorable Member Cathy Hughes about they are on board. But Mr. Speaker, yes, it is empty because I listened to the presentation. What the Honorable Member said that at the end, after objecting to us building a hospitality center at Port Morant and building a track at Leonora, Mr. Speaker, I understand the undercurrents of those objections are not lost on the Guyanese people. So, Mr. Speaker, we have to build a united country, and we have to diversify development across all sectors of this country and across geographic regions. We will not develop one region in our country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I lend my 100% support to Budget 2023. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.